am Lucy. I'm editorial director here at Like a Boss Girls, and this is a new live like web chat series we're doing called Mind of a Mentor. And it's really, we really want to bring hella cool women who who are in all different industries and bring them their voices and their stories, and particularly their hero's journey. So when we first decided to do this new series, I had somebody immediately in mind, and that woman is with us today, Samantha Citro.
Hi, thank you. I'm so glad that you had me immediately in mind. That's such an honor.
I did. So you guys, so to give you a little background on Sam and my's, how we know each other, we actually went to NYU together, and we both went to, get this, the art school, which is called Tisch. And Sam she was in acting and I was in film. And that's how we know each other. And basically, you guys are going to hear today how this girl has traversed so many different industries, and not just like, oh, dabbled here and there. Like, this woman was in leadership positions. So Sam, with that said, would you give everyone kind of like a cocktail line, if you will? You're at a cocktail party, someone asks you that question of what do you do, which, by the way, I think we need to like stop asking people what they do and start asking like, what are your passion projects, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so tell us what your passions are, and kind of give us that little cocktail line of where you're at right now in your career.
I'll start with the regular boring cocktail line response. So I am the marketing and operations director for Immunocologie, which is an amazing indie natural luxury skincare line. And I could talk to you about skincare for days. But
Yes,
we did that already in the skincare tutorial, so let's get that.
Yeah, Sam did do a skincare tutorial on a how-to on Facebook, and I highly recommend you check it out. This girl, oh my God, it's like constant glowing. She doesn't even wear makeup half the time. It's just her skincare routine. Okay, so anyway, sorry, I cut you off. Keep going.
No, it's fine. And so what does a marketing and operations director mean at a company of, on a good day, 6 people, and on a bad day, it's, just me and the country holding down the fort. It kind of means everything. And I call myself, instead of, marketing and operations director, the director of GSD, or the director of Get Shit Done.
I freaking love it, because that is so true.
Yeah.
Like, as an entrepreneur, you wear so many hats, and like, we are producers. Like, so I have a film and TV background, so I think of everything I do as like producing, and like that is like the word for, professional fire putter outer, professional like just wisdom giver.
Professional therapist,
Yes, yes. Okay, so
Um,
so you get shit done.
yes. Which is great. And so basically, what my job is in a nutshell is Immunocologie was founded by this amazing woman named Karen Ballou, who has over 40 years of beauty industry experience, has formulated, over 120 different products for giant, big name brands. But she's never put her name behind a brand before. And so she started Immunocologie as, her passion project. And she is the founder and the face of the brand, and she wants to be out in the world talking to people about, healthy skin and how Immunocologie is different than anything else on the market. And in order to give her the freedom to go and do that, she needs someone to run her business for her. And so that's, what I do.
You're like, and that's me.
Yeah, so that's what I do. And so that's anything from, setting up trainings to doing sales and managing our junior folks and product development and marketing initiatives. It's just all the things. And it's great. I love it. My passion is, I think my passion has evolved over time, getting to the second part of your question. I started as an actor when I was a child. I sang, I danced, like was the triple threat kind of thing. I had a manager and an agent, and tried to make it work, and I thought that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. That's why I went to Tisch. And about halfway through my career at Tisch, I was struck with this opportunity where I would have to be on the road for like 18 months, I think it was. And it was an opportunity that anyone who wanted to be an actor would never have even thought twice about. They would have just taken it, and I didn't. I couldn't.
Yeah,
Because
that was your like realization, right? When you're
the
like,
real
wait a second, I should be feeling this way and I'm not. I need to reevaluate what I've been believing is like my calling, right?
exactly. And that was pretty scary, honestly, because it seems silly to say I had wanted to be an actor for, 18 years when I was only at the time 19 years old. But I really had, like, I grew up doing it. I never thought that I would do anything else. Actually, so my sophomore year of high school, this is kind of a funny story. I was in chemistry class and I hated it. And I had a breakdown one day at my kitchen table with my mom. And I was like, Mom, I don't even understand why I have to learn chemistry. I'm going to be an actor for my whole life.
Oh my
And
God, and now you're in beauty, which is like totally has.
yeah, and now I'm like a ingredient nerd and I'm calling our, biochemist all the time to understand more about delivery systems and chemistry.
Your
So it,
biochemist is on your speed dial, is what you're saying.
yeah, it's ridiculous. So, but I really, in that moment, was like, I'm never going to do anything other than acting. Why do I have to learn all of this other random stuff? It's clouding my mind from what I want to be doing. I hate this. Um, and my mom was like, listen, you want to give yourself options, being like giving sage mom advice. Um, and I just didn't want to hear it. But anyway, so fast forward, I'm in the middle of a really intense program at Tisch, and I realize, nope, not for me. Um,
But okay, I have to give our listeners some backstory here, you guys. See, okay, so Tisch, the art school is unlike any. It's not your normal college experience, and we all were in very intensive programs. And Sammy would go. So we were actually like we were next door neighbors in our apartments for a while, and she would come home just like you were exhausted because you had been at studio for like 12 hours, bawling your eyes out, or like just crazy stuff. So I want them to understand that like you were in an incredible program, like the Meisner program at Tisch, like, and also Sammy would bring me to tears, like when I would see her perform. I mean, this woman is incredible. So for you, it's just so fascinating for somebody who just like it's just so interesting because sometimes people are meant to be in our lives for a certain period of time, and maybe passions are meant to be in our lives for a certain period of time,
mhm.
right?
I think that's right. Honestly, people generally give things up when they're not very good at them. Um, I think I actually, not to like toot my own horn, but I think I was actually a pretty good actor. Like,
Yeah,
was I really
I'm willing to second this.
not so low that I was ever going to be famous because no one, it's hard. It's a hard field, but I think I could have probably stuck it out and done it for a career if I wanted to do it.
Yeah, you're a
Um,
hustler. This girl may like to look fabulous and have a sleek high pony, but she will like get her hands dirty, which is what we'll talk about later.
um, but yeah, so and I kind of quit doing it in the peak of being good at it, which I think is a little bit crazy. It's
Yeah,
something that
you get this offer to go on the road in a regional theater tour for 18 months, which like actors would kill for, and you have this thing in your gut, right? That just
and
says
so
it's
I
not.
think the idea that certain passions are meant to be in your life for certain periods of time, like I, had I had an awesome childhood. My parents gave me everything that I could have ever asked them to give me, but it was also like they had a pretty not great marriage. And their relationship taught me a lot of things. It made me an excellent listener. It made me a great therapist and problem solver and situation diffuser. And I think that while I was living at home and while I was dealing with, the brunt of when I was in college, my parents got divorced, and it was not like a nice, fun, amicable divorce. It was
Right.
pretty nasty. I think acting was in my life for that period of time because it was an outlet. It was
Absolutely.
like my own version of therapy. I was able to work out all of my feelings in class or on stage or on film. And, in life, I'm a very composed person. Sometimes people call me a robot because I'm emotionless.
Which is so
But
not true. It's just that I think you have this ability through your craft, through acting, through the craft of like knowing when it's time to share those. Because like
Mhm.
when you share them, you go hard.
Yeah. And so I think it was in my life for the time that it was there because I needed it. And then I realized that I didn't need it anymore. I was ready to do something else, and to funnel my passions somewhere else. Um,
So wait, so you're actually bringing up something that I want to share with our listeners that at least I have found to be true. So you mentioned that you're at the same time that your parents are getting having a how shall we say, not lovely or pleasant divorce. It was not a conscious uncoupling. Thank you, Gwyneth.
no, gosh, I'm couple.
You are also realizing at this, like literally the same period in time, that this thing that you thought was what you wanted to be doing forever is not. You are no longer having those absolute, like, that call to act for the rest of your life, and you are abruptly. I'm just going to fill in the gaps for our listeners. Your parents let you know that, like, come graduation, you are financially responsible for yourself completely.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Um,
And I
and
just think that, like, when things are going, I think I just wanted to mention that I believe that when it feels like shit is just going wrong, excuse me, I'm sorry. Um, when things are just going wrong left and right, I actually think that that's an indicator that things are going right. Things are happening. It means that, like, there you are in a transition period, and like this is going to lead to something. It just means that there is a shift in the air. Um,
yeah,
and so I want you to kind of, yeah. So sorry, I cut you off, but talk about that. Finding out that you would be Samantha Citro, independent woman, like the moment you finished that last course.
yep. And so my I was very, very fortunate that my parents helped me put me through college, which was amazing. Um, and I decided to graduate in 3 years because at the beginning of my career, in my college career, I was like, I want to be an actor and I need to get out there as young as possible. And so I am going to cram all of my classes into 3 years so that I can graduate early and be young and beautiful for an extra year in the field. And then, I'm
Young
two
and
and a half
beautiful.
years into a 3 year program, and I realize I have no idea what I want to do. I've done zero internships. Um, I don't have a resume of like working experience other than like babysitting and um, some retail work that I had done in high school. And that was a little terrifying. Um, and so it was summertime when this all went down, and I had an apartment. Um, and I needed to figure out how I was going to pay my rent when, 6 months from now, my parents weren't paying it anymore. And I called a friend of a friend who owned a bar, Steven.
Ah,
Um,
yes, Stephen.
yeah. So we had this friend Liza who's a DJ, and she used to DJ at this bar down the street from us called Exchange, and it was like based off of the New York Stock Exchange, and the drink prices would fluctuate depending on um, market action and like how many people ordered a gin and tonic, and then the prices would go up. Anyway, it was cool.
It was a real
So
gem. No longer exists, sadly.
yeah, it's gone. But Steven owned that bar and a couple of other bars, and I reached out to him on Facebook Messenger, and I was like, Steven, how are you? I need a job. Do you have any bartending jobs available, or hostessing or waitressing or cleaning the floors or literally anything? I just need money. And he wrote me back and he was like, I don't think nightlife is for you. So I do have these friends though that own a skincare company. Would you be interested in working for them? And I wrote him back immediately and I was like, yes, absolutely. Please put me in touch with them. Thank you so much. Meanwhile, didn't know a ton about skincare. I mean, like as an actor, I was used to doing my own makeup, so I knew a good amount about makeup, but skincare was always kind of last on my list. Um, there was a time when I washed my face with isopropyl alcohol. I just,
I remember that.
yeah, that was a time. So,
This was before you being besties with the biochemist.
yep, yeah, a little bit before then. So, I met these amazing women, Yoshiko, Meta, and Nadia, who has been a staying figure in my career since the since the moment I met and interviewed with her. And they were like, we're a really small team, and we just need someone to go out into the stores and sell product. Are you interested? And I was like, does it pay money? Yes.
Like, I am in.
So, I took the job, and my first post was standing at New London Pharmacy, which is this tiny little like pharmacy, an actual pharmacy like Walgreens, but small and family owned, and they have a really interesting creation of beauty products. And holding cream in my hand and saying, "Hello, would you like to try this candle nut body cream? It smells amazing. It feels amazing."
And like, I'm sure as an actor, like, you weren't threatened by that, but oh my God, that is like my worst nightmare. Like, trying to sell people something, because we all have that connotation of like a salesperson, right? Like the person in the mall who's like, try this dead sea salt scrub, and you're like, stop trying to hound me.
I tried so hard not to be that person. And weird stuff happened to me. Like this, I kind of became this like skincare consultant slash dermatologist, but over the time that I was working there, because people would come to me and be like, "Oh, you work in skincare? Let me show you this weird skin disease that I have. Let me show you one skincare."
No worries. Let me show you my psoriasis. Can you help me with that?
I actually have a rash on my back. Can you take a look? Very professional. I was like, I would really recommend that you see a dermatologist about that.
But if you want help with making your space glow, I got you.
The weirdest story, and then we'll move on because I don't want to like stick on this topic for the whole time, but I think it's kind of funny. Is at that same place, New London Pharmacy, and I worked at a few places around the city doing the same thing, like showing product, and eventually I was like, hey, what if we did mini events in the store? I think that would help to drive customers in, and so I would set up these little bowls, and I would do these.
We need to like pause here, because this is what has allowed Samantha to go from acting to just being a sales like facial person at a pharmacy, because you advocate for yourself, and you, whenever you see a gap or an opportunity, you speak up. And that's what allowed you to like then get, create your own position for this small company, and then like get recruited for the like biggest hedge fund in the world. So like, I love how you just skim over like, oh, so like I thought that we could do this, but it's like, no, that is the crux of this, is like you see a gap and you're like, I'm gonna fill it.
That's true. And that I think has served me very well throughout, the few places that I've worked at since starting my career. I always say that, I try to fill the holes. Like, it's kind of like a football term, find the hole and run with it, and that's how you score. I always try to find the hole, and then I run with it, and I go as far as I can until someone stops me. And sometimes I grab the ball and run with it, and I'm maybe running in the wrong direction, or I'm doing something that someone wouldn't have wanted me to do, but I would rather, try something and ask forgiveness than ask permission and have someone say no, no, no when something could actually be helpful and move the needle for a business.
I so
So,
agree. I love that phrase. Like, it is far better to plead for forgiveness than ask for permission.
yeah,
Especially
I,
in entrepreneurship, at least. Like, I can't speak for all I'm saying is take initiative. Initiative is just speaks volumes.
yeah, yeah, it does. And it's so far served me well, 98% of the time. And I think that's a pretty good ratio.
Yeah,
So
you're
I'm
like,
going to
I'm willing to like apologize for 2%.
apologize sometimes and, come with my head hanging in my hands when I mess up. Another thing that I think is important is not, and this is something that I learned at the next job, which we'll get to, is not being afraid of making mistakes and being very open when you do make mistakes so that people can help you. Um, it's human nature to, when you make a mistake, try to keep it to yourself, try to cover it up, try to fix it. But mistakes are how we learn. And so I, in my current job, try to cultivate an environment where mistakes are embraced. So when I got there, I'm getting very ahead of myself. When I
Oh,
got to
no
my new
worries. You're perfect.
um, there was definitely a culture of trying to hide mistakes from each other because mistakes were viewed as a negative. And I have worked really, really hard over the past couple of months that I've been with them to change that culture around. And I'm like, hey, you make a mistake, come to me with it. I will never yell at you for making a mistake. I will never be mad at you for making a mistake as long as you pop it up, bring it to the attention of the right person, and then we can fix it together and figure out why the mistake happened so it doesn't happen again in the future.
I totally agree. I have such respect. Like I don't know when I learned this. I, I probably in high school or at some point when you start figuring things out about yourself and who you are in this world. But I realized that like vulnerability and being honest about that is one of the strongest things about somebody. And that goes from like emotional vulnerability to, like you said, owning up to when you're like, I screwed the pooch on this one. Or and also, like you said, not like if you take initiative to not only do things but then to let people know when you need help or things have gone awry, like that just I have mad respect for that person. Like you are not letting life happen to you. You are making things happen even when they go a little south. So that's awesome. Okay, so sorry, cut you off.
No, it's fine. I was going on a tangent. So, um, anyway, going back to Dwara. So eventually, after a couple of months of working just in the stores and saying, hey, let's try this event, and I would bring in my little bowls and I'd do arm scrubs and massages and have people fall in love with the sense of things. And then I eventually started planning some events, like events for them and working at them, and that was cool.
And this is all
But
while finishing your last year.
yeah, I was like taking, 1 or 2 classes and working like 3 or 4 days a week.
Yeah.
And I knew that I didn't want to be on the floor sales support forever. I was really starting to love the beauty industry, meeting some really cool people. Like when I was working at ABC, Rosemary Swift from RMS Makeup would come in, once a week with her little dog, and she would come talk to me and tell me about how she came up with the different colors in her makeup line and how coconut oil is so amazing for the skin. And she was so cool. And one of the things that I love about beauty is it's like the perfect meld of glamour and nerdy chemist.
I love it. Yes.
Because it seems so glamorous from the outside, makeup artists and celebrities and these huge flashy campaigns on billboard signs. But when you actually get down to the nitty gritty, it's about what ingredients do you put in a product to make the skin react in the way that you want it to. Skin is a living organ, the largest organ of your body. And why aren't we treating it that way? Why do we, slab paint on it like it's a shirt or pants or a canvas, something that's not alive? Your skin is alive, it's breathing, it's taking things in, it's expelling things. It's like your liver or your heart or your stomach, and it needs to be treated in that way. And so the meld of those two things was just so compelling to me. And I knew that I wanted to do more than just, stand on a floor and sell, which is so important and an amazing job, but it just wasn't the right one for me in the long run.
So how did you transition from this temporary, what you thought was a temporary, like, I just need to make money to pay my rent, to like getting offered a full-time position at this beauty startup?
So I figured that if I wanted to get more involved in this company, I needed to spend more time with the founders and with Nadia, who was their VP of brand development, and
And is now like a huge mentor for you, yes?
yeah. So they were moving offices from one place to another place that was kind of down the street, and I asked if they needed help packing boxes. They were like, "Yeah, of course. Why don't you come into the office for the next 3 days instead of going to the store and help us pack up?" And I packed my ass off. I color coded things, I dusted, I threw things away that weren't needed anymore. I helped with like file sorting. I was the best packer in those 3 days that anyone has ever seen. And
that anyone has ever seen. I love it. It's like if there's a job worth doing, it's worth doing well, right?
And so after I did that, I guess during that time, Nadia saw something in me or just desperately needed help from someone who was organizationally minded and was like, "Hey, why don't you just come to the office one day a week and go to the store the other days a week, but I could really use some help." And so I started going into the office one day a week, and I would help her pack up press boxes or organize things or, hand fill 500 Candle Nut body creams that needed to go to an event the next day. I mean, I did anything that she asked me to do. And eventually she was like, "Hey, how about 2 days in the office and, 3 days at the store? And how about 3 days at the office and 2 days at the store?" And then eventually I kind of ended up at the office all the time. And then we needed to find someone to be in store. And so I helped them hire someone to backfill myself, store support.
It's always a good sign you're doing something right when you need to hire someone to replace you.
Yep. And so I was then offered the position of the sales and marketing assistant, which I happily accepted. And I continued to just do whatever Nadia told me.
Wait, so let me pause there for a second. So on your first job, did you try to negotiate? Like your first salary offer?
Yes, of course.
Thank you. that is the what I'm trying to get more women, no matter where you are in your career, like negotiating is essential. Like I think that is why dudes have the 22 cents on us, because it is just like a instinctual duh. Like I'm going to try to advocate for myself as much as possible.
Yeah. So, I grew up in a household where anything that I wanted to buy needed a formal presentation and also a payment plan. So I remember being like, I don't know, 7, and I wanted a dog. And my dad was like, "Okay, if you want a dog, you can put together a PowerPoint presentation for me about the different types of dogs that are available and why you want a specific type. And then you can put together an Excel file that amortizes out the cost of having a dog over the dog's life and tell me how you're going to use your allowance to pay for the dog." And so I put together this little presentation. And anyway, I didn't end up actually getting the dog, which was tragic. But
it was a fabulous exercise because you ended up running like project managing at a hedge fund, and I bet you that those skills paid off.
Right. So when I went in to do my first contract negotiation, when they offered me that sales and marketing assistant job, I this was hilarious. So I put together a list of all of the job functions that I would be running as a sales and marketing assistant. So I was like, because I exist in your office, you don't have to hire an office manager, you don't have to hire a sales assistant, you don't have to hire a marketing assistant, you don't have to hire a social media person, you don't have to hire a digital marketing person. And I, wrote these all down.
You were like, this is all the value I provide to you guys in one body.
And then I put down, what the starting-ish salaries would be for all of those different types of positions. And then I broke down what percentage of time I would be spending on each position. And that totaled out to a certain number. And I brought that to my contract negotiation with Yoshiko. And I remember sitting down with her, and she was like, okay, we're prepared to offer you, I think it was like $30,000 a year salary, and we will pay for your phone bill and something else. And I looked at her.
I love this. What are you going to say?
Yoshiko, please see this paper. And I like slid it across the desk to her. And I was like, this is what I believe this is what I believe my value to the firm is. Please review, talk it over with your business partners, and come back to me with a revised proposal. And then I left.
I love it. I love it. And you were right out of college, or maybe no, you were still in school, and you
I was out of school.
Okay, you're out of school.
Yeah.
And you were like, this is my value, and I'm going to advocate for myself. Like, the worst they can say is no, right?
And then I would just be in the same boat that I was a couple months earlier, calling Steven and asking him for a bartending job.
There you go.
And it actually was very successful, and I think they respected me for doing it. And I ended up earning a salary that was, a really good wage for someone just coming out of school.
Living in New York.
And having to, provide for myself and make sure that I had enough money to cover rent and food and the occasional pair of shoes, because I do have an addiction. And yeah, so that was my first job, and it was an amazing, incredible learning experience. And it evolved into basically like a national sales and marketing manager kind of job. I was running, 60% of all of our sales accounts. I was in charge of the entire digital marketing. I'm going to call it a department, but it was a department of one. So
I love it. I love the transparency, because I totally get that.
The department of one. I was involved in product development. I was involved in creating training manuals for retailers and coming up with store support plans. I ended up going to Indonesia for 10 days to both train the new team that we were building there, because we were starting to build an Indonesian business. It was an Indonesian skincare line. And also to do market research in Bali with some amazing jamu healers and learning about their fabrics and all kinds of stuff. It was such an amazing experience. And
I remember once you were like, I just pitched to, like, you're like, I just had a meeting with the editor-in-chief of what magazine was it?
Oh, I did a whole day of desk sides with editor-in-chiefs at Condé Nast. It was, and beauty editors. I did so much in that job. I was there for about 3 years, and I did, probably 10 years of work in those 3 years. When you're working for a small company, you have the good fortune of being able to wear many, many hats, and so get some fantastic experience. And, I had my first experience managing people there. I developed an internship program that spit out a lot of really awesome people that want to do awesome things. I helped to manage our on-the-ground sales force, and because I had done it, even though I was younger than all of the women that we hired, they looked at me as an equal because I had done the job, and so I knew what it was like to be on the sales floor selling. And I knew how hard it was.
Yeah.
And so it was an incredible experience.
So how
And
did you transition? So what prompted you to then, so your next pit stop, if you will, was in finance at a hedge fund.
That's true.
And so how did that happen? Because like if things are going so awesome and you're feeling so much like you've learned so much, like what was the inkling like, okay, I'm itching to try something.
Yeah, so I had been there for about 3 years, and I felt like I had gained a lot from wearing multiple hats, but the thing that I was missing to take me to the next level of ability was structure. Learning how to operate within a traditional corporate environment, real management experience in a department of larger than one.
Because I wanna clarify for people the reason why you want this experience is because tell us about your like you want to have your own brand or business, yes?
Yes, definitely. So I think, down the road, and it's an ever-changing target, but down the road, I either want to have, my own brand or my own venture capital firm that invests in beauty brands and cultivates them. But I want to be able to do my own thing, and I needed to understand the structures that had to be put in place to run and I'm going to use the word real, but that's not the word that I mean, a real business.
Yeah. You mean like a large team.
An institution.
Yeah.
So I was looking around, trying to find some other things, and I interviewed with a couple of other beauty companies and got a couple of offers, but it felt like it would just be a slightly larger version of the same thing. So I was going from a department of 1 to a department of 4. Or something like that. And it wasn't quite clicking. And I got a LinkedIn message from a recruiter for Bridgewater, which is the largest hedge fund in the world in AUM. And I was not going to respond. And then I came back to my apartment that night, and my boyfriend, Max, who I've been with for now 5 years. Oops, sorry.
Winston.
Relax, buddy. So I came home and I told Max that I had gotten this message from this recruiter, and I was like, I'm not going to go. I'm not going to do anything about it. And he was like, what? Are you kidding me? Bridgewater is so cool. Like, you have to read about it. You have to go. You at least have to take the phone call.
Because he went to NYU Stern, which is one of the best business schools in the country.
So I actually went to Gallatin.
Oh, no way!
Yeah. So I think his degree ended up being in behavioral finance. So it was more of like a cool, quirky, curated major. But yeah, he's a finance guy through and through. He worked at Lazard. He's starting a new job at Brightwood next week.
He heard Bridgewater and he was like, you're crazy to not
at least take the call. And I don't know if you guys know anything about Bridgewater, but they have this really cool culture, they say, of radical truth and transparency. And it was something that intrigued me to take the phone call. So I get on the phone with the recruiter, and he's like, we really love, getting people from different backgrounds. We don't want typical finance people working at the shop. And so I'd love to have you come in and meet with people. But first, you have to go through our like psychological evaluation testing.
I love this. Psychological evaluation testing.
Yep. And so I did. And it was so cool. I mean, I took a oh my God, the acronym is escaping me, but it's that personality test.
Myers-Briggs.
Myers-Briggs, yeah. So
oh my God, I love a good personality test.
And I did like a stratum test and a couple of other things, and I learned so much about myself during these tests. And then they were like, okay, now you can come in. And so I came in and I did this crazy 12-hour interview day, and I just fell in love with the place.
Because this wasn't to give our listeners some context. They're not asking you to manage a fund. They're asking you to manage the people that manage a fund.
Exactly. So they separate management from content people. And so they were bringing me in for a management track role. Um, and everyone was so smart. And I left the day and my brain hurt. And that's how I knew that I wanted to take the job. Because if I can go somewhere where every day when I leave my brain hurts, I know that I'm growing.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided to take it and I stayed. And while I was there, I did a bunch of really cool things, mostly in the project management space. I did some people management too. I learned a ton of techniques for managing processes and procedures. I was a CAO, which is a chief administrative officer, and a chief of staff for our research department. It was great. It was an awesome experience. And the thing that had me, the skills that I learned there, I will take everywhere, whether I stay in beauty or don't stay in beauty. Right now, I'm leaning towards staying in beauty for quite a while, but even if I don't, the skills that I learned at Bridgewater transcend role, they transcend industry. It's really about how to get the most out of the people that you're working with.
Yeah, and it wasn't, and I want to provide context for folks too. Like this, like, huge hedge fund, you're, managing a team of 2,000 people. Like, wasn't your department 2,000 or something crazy?
The research department was like 200 or something.
200, yeah. Okay, sorry, 200. But the point is like this girl was commuting from Manhattan to Connecticut every day. Like, what was it? A 2-hour commute each way, hour and a half commute each way?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so you would leave your apartment at what, like 6:15, 6:30, and like come home at like 10?
Yep.
Yeah. So even though she's like has the best attitude about it, like this wasn't like you were hustling. Girl, you were hustling.
Not a cakewalk at all. And as I desired, every day I left, my brain hurt.
Like so much pain.
But it was good pain. It was growing pain. And I was there for about a year. And again, the same way that Dwara felt like it packed 10 years of experience into 3 years, I would say that in my 1 year at Bridgewater, I gained 5 years of experience because it was so intense. And you're constantly on, you're constantly being challenged. And mediocrity is not acceptable. And that is definitely something that I will take with me. I was saying I did another interview type of thing, and Lucy was listening to it, and I said this quote in it that I'm not a perfectionist, I'm a do-it-rightist, and she loved that.
I love that, you guys. Like, because yeah, perfection is subjective or unattainable or whatever you want to say, but just how you were saying earlier, you were like, if I'm going to be packing boxes, I'm going to be the best damn box packer you've ever seen.
Yep.
I love that. And I think that it's also like one thing about Sam that I love is that we're both big believers, I think, in the 80-20 rule. And if you guys aren't familiar, it's that like 80% of the things you're doing are responsible for 20% of the things you're doing are responsible for 80% of your success, or there are who's the 20% of people in your life who are causing 80% of your problems. It's all that kind of stuff. And so part of, I think, you doing things right is not just that you want to be productive, but that you want to be effective.
Exactly.
You want to do the right things rightly.
Yeah. And I don't think I was actually having this conversation the other day with someone who works for me, and I was saying, if you're working at 10 p.m., I'm gonna come and ask you what you're doing wrong, because you can fit everything that you need to do in, a very productive 9 to 6 or 10 to 6 day if you're doing the right things. And I would rather have you working smart than working hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that people can get really tripped up on. because if you are working 24 hours a day, you feel like you're being so productive and doing so much, but actually you're just exhausting yourself.
Yeah,
And
and
you're
that's
only
not it's not healthy for any area of your life, personal, career, spiritual. Like
exactly.
you can't, like, you are actually better when you rest or when you know how to honor those different aspects of yourself.
Mhm. Definitely. Um,
So,
so
so just how you, sorry, I cut you up. So just how I tend to do that, guys. Sorry, I get excited and then I jump in and then I'm like, I'm the worst. So to fast forward, you said you knew, like, just like Dwara crammed 10 years into 3, Bridgewater, the finance hedge fund, crammed a ton into a year or however long it was, and then you transitioned back into beauty.
yep. So, funnily enough, I keep feeling like I am falling into these different opportunities. Um, but I think it's just because I put myself out there a lot. And so um, things come to me and I either say yes or no. And I tend to be pretty decisive um, about making changes or doing things. And so I was in Italy on vacation again with Max, and I got an email from this woman named Karen, and she was like, "Oh, like your resume somehow fell through the cracks. Are you still interested?" And I wrote back to her and I was like, "Hi, sorry, I don't know what you're referring to, but I'd love to chat." And we had a coffee chat one morning. I went into work late,
Because
and
this is, you had applied to this, I guess, 9 months or something crazy prior.
yep. Yeah. About 9 months prior. And I went to her apartment and we had a coffee chat. And she was like, I am a partner at this amazing private equity fund called Lucas Brand Equity. We invest in small skincare, beauty, hair care, cosmetics companies, and we incubate them and we grow them and then we sell them. And that's what we do. Um, and I was like, that sounds perfect to me. That is exactly what I want to do. It's like the perfect meld of the two worlds that I had been living in, beauty and finance, or finance management. And I wasn't ready to make the move at the time, but I kept chatting with Karen. And I think, after 6 months of talking to each other, I was finally ready to come back to beauty. I felt like I'd gotten a lot out of Bridgewater and was ready to move on. And so I ended up taking this job with Immunocologie. Um, and I've been there since January. And we talked a little bit about at the beginning of this session about what I do for them. Um, I basically, run the business so that Karen can be the founder and face of the brand. Karen, this person that I'm talking about, is both a partner at Lucas Brand Equity and also the founder of Immunocologie. And then Lucas Brand Equity owns a bunch of other different brands. And I get to chat with other brand presidents about how they're running their businesses, and we learn a lot from each other. And they're
So it's
trying
like
to create.
you took your massive, like, running an institution and then you brought it back down to the small scale of a small beauty brand.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
so I stepped in, I created some order out of chaos. I reevaluated our team structure. I cleaned up some other stuff that was going on, and I helped to create projections to put us on a concrete track forward. And then from there, I've been using a lot of the skills that I learned at Jawara to run the business day to day. And, when I first got there, I was supposed to just be the marketing director. And then I saw a hole in operations and I quickly took that on. And then recently, we've needed some help in our sales department. And so I've taken that on now too. And so now I'm the director of 80 things. And
You're
the
the
title means
president of Get Shit Done.
exactly. So that is what I do. That is how I got here. And
I love it. And just that you didn't let that, like, what some people would, like, so I didn't even know this massive radical shift Sam was having between, like, feeling like her calling wasn't her calling anymore, acting wasn't your calling anymore. Like, I think you might have grieved her for like a few days and then you, like, got into action.
yeah,
Um,
that's right.
I know, yeah, yeah, that's right. I know that everyone has their own timetable. Like you can't, your journey is your own. So I'm not telling people to not grieve or not whenever they have a transition like that. But I just think it's fantastic that you did not let this ruin you. You didn't let you make you feel like a failure. If anything, I think you were, after you had your moments of grief, you were like, this is exciting. Because I think what's incredible is that you take everything you've ever learned and you apply it to the next thing, whether it's writing those Excel spreadsheets for your dad for why you want a dog when you're a little girl, or acting and putting yourself out there and then having to become a sales, like on the floor. Like I'm sure there's rejection, when you're trying to sell people beauty products.
I mean, I think people think about their careers in such silos. Like, okay, I'm a tech person. I am a finance person. I am a fashion person. And I don't think that you have to narrow yourself like that. Everything that I've learned from everything that I've done is transferable across every place that I've worked. And so, acting is sales and operations is therapy and management is acting, and it's all the same.
And I just love that. Our careers are not in silos. Like we don't have to create these walls between the different skills we have.
Yeah. And I think that if you focus more on two things. One, taking opportunities that are interesting to you and meet your needs. So for me, I'm not going to pretend that that money isn't a need for me. Like I have a lifestyle that I choose to live, and I know that whatever job that I take needs to be able to afford me that lifestyle.
And I love that it's a non-negotiable. You're so transparent about that, and it doesn't. And to me, that actually makes you more like when you define what your priorities are, and then you act on them, and you're transparent with everyone around you, whether that's in your personal life or your career or whatever. It's incredibly a sign of strength, and also I think you get more of what you want.
Yeah. I mean, no one's going to know what you want if you don't tell them. People aren't mind readers, and people have very different values from each other. And so if you're open with an employer about what's important to you, like what's important to me is freedom, being able to run with ideas and not be bottlenecked by bureaucracy. What's important to me is money. What's important to me is direct impact. What's important to me is cultivation and mentorship of people, and being able to work very closely with my team to help make them better and for them to help make me better. And these are all things that I've laid out, that I've started to learn about myself, that I've made clear to myself throughout my career journey, and that I will be very forthright with every future employer about, because people who are looking for a job feel like they're in a position of weakness, because there are only so many employers out there, and there are so many people looking for a job. When in fact, the person who's coming to you to join your team is actually in a position of strength, because there are a lot of people out there looking for jobs, and most of them aren't that great. I think the talent pool in the world right now is pretty poor. And so if you are good at what you do, if you are committed, and if you're very clear about what you want and what's important to you, you have a great shot of getting it.
Yes. Oh my God, that is such an amazing, I think, way to wrap this up. God, you're just like leaking wisdom left and right. You guys, I know we are over our time, but I just felt like we had to keep going, and I'm loving that, like, no, like more people came, like people weren't bouncing at 1:40. If you guys have any questions, either type them up here, or like you can unmute yourself and hop on with us. Otherwise, I will ask one final question that I love asking of everybody that I meet. So I'm a big believer in like rituals or things that you do for yourself because you just feel like they make you better, more effective, like happier, right? So one thing that I love to ask of people who inspire me is, what are some of your rituals, Sam?
Well, um, I have a couple, and they're mostly dumb. Um,
I love it, and they're mostly dumb.
so I wake up every morning and check my email, which is literally the worst thing that anyone can do. And I would not recommend that anyone do it, but I have like moderate anxiety, so I do it. That's what
So
I
I
do.
do it.
Um, I also, every weekend, we live near this amazing place called Brookfield Place.
Oh
And
my
every,
God, Brookfield Place. Are you going to tell me you go to the district?
yes, every weekend on Saturday, I walk over to the district and I get an iced white mocha. And that is my treat for the week. And other ritual type of things. I mean, every day I like to be different. I guess a ritual is having no day be the same. Um,
Ooh, that's interesting.
because I sometimes I work from home, sometimes I work from the office, sometimes I take meetings first thing in the morning, sometimes I don't, sometimes I work out first thing in the morning, sometimes I work out at night. Um, I like to shake it up. Um, and when I'm stressed, I read stupid girly novels.
I love it. Like, and you have always been this way, at least since I've known you. I mean, it's like you would be like, you guys, do you need a fabulous, like sweep you off your feet um, novel? Or you'd be like, oh my God, this is like a mystery. And it was just so funny because you are so intellectual and so just God, so knowledgeable. And it just goes to show that like we all have our places of rest, right? Like Amy Schumer, the comedian, and like so many very smart, strong feminist women like watch Real Housewives.
Yeah, Adina's question here. Adina wants to know how I keep myself motivated and how I push myself. Um, that's a good question. I think I am motivated by um, success. And
So
that's why I like,
how do you define success? That's the most
yeah,
important
and
question.
so that's why I like to work in a position where I feel very close to business outcomes. Um, when I close a sale or when I, can cut costs for our team or when I can, um, when I can coach someone into doing a better job than they did yesterday, or I can help someone whose morale was low and raise it and make them and rejigger their job um, so that it plays on their strengths and doesn't focus on their weaknesses. Those are successes to me, and I try to be able to have one tangible success every day. That's how I stay motivated.
That is so awesome. One tangible success a day. I'm writing that down. Yeah.
Yeah. So one tangible success. And I set goals for myself and my team at the beginning of every week. And at the end of every week, I look over those goals and I like to write them down because I like the physical gratification feeling of crossing them out.
Oh,
So,
amen, sister friend. The first thing on my to-do list is always make a to-do list, and then I get to cross that sucker off.
yeah. And so I love crossing things off of my list. That's another thing that really keeps me motivated. What else keeps me motivated? This is a very stupid thing that keeps me motivated, but shoes. I love to buy shoes, and whenever I rank my successes in order from like small to big, and whenever I achieve like a really big success, I will go out and buy a pair of shoes.
Mm. Treat yourself.
I think that's it. I try to treat myself.
Yeah, especially like when you're financially able and you're and this girl is wise about finances. Um,
Nina?
I know, Adina, you're the best. OMG, that is awesome. Isn't she the best, you guys? Um,
Best.
Oh my gosh, this was so fun. Guys, thank you so much for joining us on Mind of a Mentor. And I think we should have Sam on again, no? Yes, I think so.
I will come on again. Thank you guys. Thank you for listening. And I hope this was helpful. And you can always email me anytime. I'm going to give you my email. It's scitro, Citro, at immunocologie.com. And I'll spell that too. It's IMMUNOCOLOGIE.com.
Really rolls off the tongue, huh?
Immunocologie.
I love
But feel free to email me. I'm here for you guys. And have an awesome day. Awesome Friday.
Yes, happy Friday all. And yeah, thanks for tuning in on Mind of a Mentor. Everyone, lovely weekend. Sam, you know I love you. And we'll talk soon, everybody.